The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Lewiston Fire Department. Job number 29838. Please utilize this job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your apparatus. Located just underneath the front bumper are two open-ended tow hooks. Moving up onto the face of the bumper is a mechanical siren. Moving just to the opposite side is an air horn. And just to the outer edge of the face of the front bumper is your electronic siren. Moving up onto the bumper on the passenger side is the location of your front turret. And just opposite, on the opposite side of the front bumper, is the lever action or valve for the 1.5-inch discharge port, which is located inside the front bumper. Moving to the outside of the light cluster, these are the right and left marker turn indicators. On the outside of the light cluster here is your low beam headlight. On the inside of that light cluster is the high beam headlight. Moving up to the next set of light clusters is a right and left turn arrow. Just to the inside of that light cluster is an emergency light. Moving to the top of the brow of the apparatus are the running lights. Mounted in the center is a forward-facing floodlight. Moving to the very top is an electronic spotlight. And at the very top are the warning light bar. Looking down at the front bumper once again on a side angle, these are the warning lights on both right and left hand side of the apparatus. This is your auto charger indicator. There is also a lever just underneath the bumper which drains the 1.5-inch attack line in the front. This is the location of your shore power. And this is the marker once again on both right and left hand side. We'll look at a little bit closer view of your auto charger for your battery, in addition with the shoreline power. As we look under the apparatus at the tow hooks, this also gives you an opportunity to look at the electrical wiring and linkages for the front bumper turret. This is the location of the 1.5-inch swivel for the attack line in the front bumper. This is a passenger side rear facing camera. Also pictured in your light bar is an opticom. Looking at a general view of the apparatus from the driver's side, this is the front discharge drain. There are keyed door handles, both front and rear, in addition with grips for your hands on the grab rail. This is looking at the Goodyear G291 tire, in addition with the Alcoa aluminum wheel. This is a visual sight gauge. This is the compartment just behind the front door, which has access also inside the cab. Just over the top of the cab, over the door we were just looking at the very top, is also a floodlight driver's side facing. The generalized view from the back half of the apparatus, we're going to start paying more close attention to the pump panel and some of the crosslays on your apparatus. Those will be the next set of images that we'll talk about. Starting in the upper left-hand corner of the lower section of your pump panel is the number 1 discharge. Just below that is the number 3 discharge. In the center is your large diameter intake. This is your foam inlet valve. Just to the right side of that is the inlet for the foam. Moving all the way down, this is the discharge drain for number 1. This is a 2.5 intake. And as we move across the bottom, I'll have another picture that has a little bit closer view of these so you'll have a better understanding of what they are in the next set of slides. I would like you to note that the color coding of the discharges, as you can see, discharge number 1 is in a reddish color. Discharge number 3 is in somewhat of a bluish color. This is the lever for your draft foam tank. These are the drain valves that we were looking at earlier for discharge number 3, the main pump drain, and also the driver's auxiliary inlet. Just near the step of the pump panel is also the location of a front drain, which is just under the first front compartment. As we look just above the pump panel, there are 2 sections for crosslays. You have a total of 4 locations for crosslays. They're clearly marked with a cage to prevent the hose from being ejected from the vehicle. There is also 2 levers to lift, and I'll show you a picture of those here shortly, which allows you to remove the actual holder for your hose for the skid load.
simply remove the strap. Once the strap has been removed, you can choose to remove the top section of the hook or choose to leave it connected. Once both of these have been disconnected, the webbing mesh will then move or swing out of the way to gain access to your crosslays. Once that mesh has been removed, move the lever at the red section here that's labeled. This will allow the skid load to be pulled out or removed. We're going to look at a variety of the information in the compartments and the equipment that's also associated with opening and closing, and also operating any of the equipment that's located within inside those compartments. There are 3 compartments that have roll-up doors on the driver's side. Merely pull the stainless steel latch, pull up, and lift, and the door will roll to the top. There are also 2 latched compartments. These latched compartments are a combination of bottle storage and fuel access, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in detail. With the roll-up door open, this will gain access to the primary pump section and all of the controls. We'll go through some details of those controls, some of the warning and hazard labels, in addition with some of the equipment that's located in this compartment. This is the light which is directly over the master intake, will illuminate if the pump is properly engaged. Once the pump is properly engaged, this light will activate, providing you information that the pump has been engaged. Moving to the left-hand side, this is the Pierce operation and maintenance schedule, and also provides you information on the job number, the pump number, and the subsequent testing of this apparatus when it was new. 1,509 GPM at 150 PSI yields 1,870 RPM. This will continue to move down as you move from 150, 200 to 250 PSI, and you also have your placard govern speed at 2,400. As you move to the right of that placard, there is the foam tank. This is the indicator to show how much foam you have inside your tank. Moving to the right of that, you have the master intake and master discharge, in addition with the test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. This is an audible alarm for the PCM fault in addition with a visual amber light. Starting on the left-hand side, you have the discharge for your front discharge, which is in purple. It also has access to foam. You have the number 1 crosslay, the number 2, a 2.5-inch crosslay, and a reel discharge. This is the reel blowdown to remove water from the reel line. We're looking now at the Pierce Information Center regarding the check engine light and also a stop engine light. These are 2 LED warning information, as you also have RPM and engine information below that. This is the water tank indicating level. This is the mode, whether you're in pressure control or you're in RPM control, and just below that is your throttle. Moving to the left-hand side of the pump panel, at the very top is a spare, the red is an air horn, and there are future spaces for additional switches. This is your Husky foam system. Looking at the left-hand side of the pump panel, just below the Husky foam system, this is the recirculating line. Next one over is your tank to pump. Moving over, you have 2 electronic valve controls. This is your primer for the fire pump. Moving over to the other side of that is the driver rear discharge valve. And moving over to the next one is the deluge discharge. This is a close-up of the tank fill recirculating line and the tank to pump, in addition with the passenger side discharge and the large diameter discharge for the electronic valves. As we move further down, this is several valves on the lower section which are indicated, and I have a close-up for those that'll help you understand the location and what those are for. The important note is that all of the drain valves are coincidentally color-coded with the discharge port. Behind the door here, as we get to the next slide, we'll show you your foam information as far as this is a lever to access the foam. To fill or drain your foam, this is the lever that you will use. This is also the location of the manual pump shift override, which has a protected switch and an amber light. There's a general view of the next compartment over, which houses a shelf. This also houses the battery charger, and you also have an additional continuous power supply. Just to the right of that in the same compartment is the inverter shoreline outlet, which is a 15 amp plug. You're looking now at the center compartment. This is a toolbar which has the ability to slide in and out depending on the size of the tools you choose to use on the inside or outside. It also pulls open to the open position. Just below that there is additional bottle storage with safety straps. Moving over to the right is a emergency or warning light, and moving further over to the right hand side is additional bottle storage. As we move further to the right hand side, this is your DEF fill location, and just beneath the DEF is your diesel low emission or low sulfur fuel. Looking at the furthest compartment to the rear on the driver's side, you have 3 shelves. Those shelves are all adjustable as far as pulling out and drop down. What you're showing there were the wheel chocks that are foldable. Back to that same compartment. This is a compartment by taking the 2 black tabs, pushing them together, enter. This will allow the shelf to be opened, pull out, and it also pulls down to gain access to tools. The next shelf is a adjustable shelf, and the very bottom shelf is a push to pull out. The next side will show you the location of where you can push down on this lever, which allows the release to allow the shelf to be pulled out. There are 3 lights on the upper section of your apparatus that are all 3 floodlights. This is a close-up of those indications, and also the rear ladder rail. Moving to the back section on both left and right hand side is the cluster for your brake tail and reverse lights. The lower one is your reverse, middle is turn, and the upper one is brake. There are also 4 fold-down handle steps to access the upper compartments, in addition with grab rails. There are work lights or step lights located for your safety. These are emergency lights. Moving further up are warning lights. And moving further up are 2 additional work lights. To the right hand side, this is the access point for your hydraulic ladder access. There is a backup or reverse camera. There are 2 LED lights underneath the bottom section and a center mounted attachment point. There is also a 2.5-inch discharge. It's the location of the rear scene lights and the hose bed lights. These are the switches that activate those. In the upper left-hand corner, there is storage for your long pike poles, in addition with a folding 10-foot ladder. In the right-hand side compartment, there is additional long storage. This is the powered equipment rack. Once the roll-up door has been moved in the upward position to gain access to a booster line, there is also a shelf that's located on top of this. On the right-hand side, this is the push button for the reel. And just below the push button, in the next set of slides, is the manual turn in case you have power failure or engine or motor problem. We're now looking at the passenger side of the apparatus on the upper section, showing the ladder and the hose bed. Once again, there are 3 compartments on this side of the body. The rear compartment, which we'll talk about what's inside there, center compartment, and a forward compartment. In the rear compartment on the passenger side, there are two adjustable shelves, with the very bottom shelf being a pull-out shelf. As we look to the center compartment, located in the center compartment once the door has been opened, is an adjustable shelf. Looking down at the body, there is an emergency light, in addition with a variety of different bottle storage with safety straps. Moving down further, this is the safety or warning label regarding exhaust. As we look at the forward compartment, there are two adjustable shelves, in addition with a pull-out shelf on the very bottom. We're looking now at the passenger side pump panel. We'll talk a little bit more about the details of the pump panel as a close-up image here comes here shortly. This is just underneath the front section of the body. This is your front discharge drain. And as you can see, just behind that is the internal relief valve, which says do not cap. Looking at the pump panel in the upper left-hand corner, this is the cab tilt location for activation of that. This is the offside intake. This is a discharge port. This is the override for the electric discharge port. Moving to the left-hand side, this is a 2.5 intake. This is the override for the large diameter electric valve for the large diameter intake. Discharge correction. I've got a close-up shot of these, which will be a little bit more helpful to understand which drains those are associated with. I would like to point out, and this is very important with your apparatus, the caution and danger labels. Probably one of the most important labels is the caution label to remove the bumper turret before raising the cab to avoid damaging the cab and the bumper turret. This is the number 2 discharge on the passenger side. This is the intake for the 2.5. Looking across the bottom, these are the discharges. One is a passenger side auxiliary inlet and the pump drain. This is a close-up of the override for the passenger side discharge. This is the webbing that has been pulled back to reveal where the location of the hose is, and the releases to release the skid loads. This is another view of a different angle of your passenger side rear-facing camera. As we look with the doors open in the rear of the cab, you'll notice a variety of different safety labels. This is a handle to grab onto to pull yourself up into the cab. You have electric windows, and just below that are your warning labels regarding the windows and seat belts. We're now looking at the driver's side section inside the door. There are also safety and warning labels located on this door and throughout the area of the cab. We'll talk a little bit about those. This is your 4-window control from the driver's side. I'd like to point out the warning label and caution labels in this area, in addition with on the seat and on the steering column and on the brake. Let's take a look at the yellow placard that is also located at the driver's right-hand foot area. In that placard, as you can see listed below, this is the release for your seat. And we'll move to that placard here in just a few more slides. This is the air ride control for your seat. And here is the placard. On that placard, this gives the information on the manufacturer date, the job number, the VIN number, in addition with gross vehicle weight rating, and also the fluid capacities that you will be checking and replacing. On the left-hand side, driver's knee is the on-off switch quarter turn. To the right of that is a diagnostic port. Just below those are the ABS diagnostics, the DPF regen, the engine diagnostic switch, and the engine inhibit switch. On the lower section is a mechanical siren foot pedal. Here's a general view of the passenger side of your vehicle with the ladder down. You have a 14-foot roof and a 24-foot extension ladder on your rack. To prevent any damage, there are warning lights that flash while the ladder rack is down, in addition with adjustment tabs so that you can line up the ladder for restoring it back to its normal position. This is looking from the rear of their apparatus toward the front of the apparatus. On the left-hand side, there are compartment storage locations. Each of these opens. Once they're in the open position, there is storage space that's free and available below. This is the location for the water fill from the top. The next one is the location for the sliding hose bed dividers. This is your rack control for the hydraulic system of it. This is a valve for your deluge discharge from above. On the equipment ladder rack, there is an oil port just to the left-hand side in the red cap. That is the fill location. This is the location of your master stream. This is on the rear of the apparatus, your powered equipment rack. Just inside the driver's seat on the left-hand side, this is your inverter on-off indication switch. This is the stationary OK to pump while rolling, your water pump and foam system switch. On the column itself, this is the turn indicator for left and right and pull for flash. Just beneath the turn indicator is a smaller knob. On that smaller knob is the push for telescoping the steering column in and out, and the pull for tilting the column forward and backwards. generalized view of the dash. We'll look to the right-hand side of the dash, and you'll find the on-off for high idle and the green light for the OK for high idle. On the left-hand side, you'll find the ignition switch and start, emergency master, headlight on-off, and the panel rocker for dimming and brightening your panel lights. There's a generalized view of the dash with the transmission, temperature, oil, DEF level, water, your RPM or tachometer, speedometer, volts, front air, rear air, and your fuel. The next slide will show the variety of different illuminated warning and information lights on the dash. And the next picture will show a information section under the speedometer and tachometer. This is a view from the operator's seat looking forward at the front dash. We'll get a little more in depth on some of the controls and components that are located here. At the top, this is your electronic siren, volume control for your PA system, and your electronic air horn. Moving down, this is the engine brake on-off. When the brake is on, this is your low, medium, high, some future switches, locations, the load manager, and your mirror heat. Moving to the next section of switches is the Opticom high beam flash. Once again, some future spots, a siren horn indicator, and a siren brake. To the right of that is your windshield wiper. It's also push for fluid. This is the Allison transmission pad, and just looking to the left-hand side of that, this is your parking system brake. Moving over to the far right-hand side of the dash, this is the climate control area. Moving up from that, this is your visual monitor for that right-hand side camera and your reverse camera. Once again, climate control. As we move to the far right, this is your bumper controlled turret, which is operated from the officer seat or passenger seat. Just above the operator's head, I'd like to call attention to this placard. This is the height placard, length and gross vehicle weight rating. I've got another image of that shows that your height 11 feet 1 inch. The length of the apparatus is 32 feet 1 1/4 inches, and the gross vehicle weight rating is 45,000 pounds. This is also another location you can find the job number for your apparatus. Moving to the right, emergency master, roof, front warning, side warning, lower rear warning. In this panel, we've got the front flood, driver's side, passenger side, and rear scene lights. This is a pump and roll pressure. Has your tank for foam and water. This is your Pierce seatbelt indicator. The next set of slides is a warning light to not move the vehicle because you have a compartment door open. And the next image is also an audible speaker for that same compartment door open. There are both right and left-hand side visors that pull down. There is a lanyard in the middle for the air horn. There are push on-off red or white lights. There are two right side and left side shore power outlets. Looking from the exterior into the rear compartment, moving into the door cab space area on the left hand side of the door, there is seatbelt information, warning labels and caution labels. Looking inside to the center of the cab on the right and left hand side, there are two roll-up compartments. Overhead there is your AC unit, in addition with white and red on-off push lights. Looking at the interior cab of this apparatus, you have two identical compartments on both the passenger and driver side, mounted with a center mounted shelf, illuminating lights. Between the two of those, there is an access panel, which is the access point for checking fluids for oil and transmission. Looking backwards to the rear of this section of the cab, there are two center mounted jump seats, and just above those jump seats is the fire comm system ports for connection, in addition with the yellow hanging device for your headset. On both right and left hand side, there are LED lights for portable use. Once again, there is shore power, and also this is your fire comm center. Looking at the passenger side of the vehicle. Moving into the cab, once again, there is a adjustable seat, which also is an air ride seat. This is the location of the increase or decrease air pressure for raising and lowering the seat. Looking at the section where the feet are located, there are 2 foot pedals in addition with your windshield wiper fluid additive location. Looking at those foot pedals, there is a mechanical siren in addition with an electronic siren. This vehicle is equipped with SRS, which is a supplemental restraint system. Please read the warning and indication labels regarding that and do not block this area. There is a grab handle on the passenger side front door. Looking overhead in the passenger side up at the ceiling, you have future places for additional components. This is the location of your go light, the electronic light that is the spotlight on top of the light bar. This is the location of the siren brake in the passenger seat. You also have the control for your bumper mounted front turret. Looking overhead once again, this is the fire comm system for the wireless system. Moving as a general view, the rope or pull cord is for your air horn. Congratulations, Lewiston Fire, on your new apparatus, job number 29838. Please utilize this job number when referencing your vehicle with used fire equipment. Congratulations.